All right, so this stone that you see behind me, that's our field stone. It's a Pennsylvania field stone. We're gonna go ahead and use this. The first step is gonna be your excavation, obviously. We're gonna excavate down. We're gonna put a gravel base of about 3 to 4 inches, and then we're gonna go ahead and set our base layer. All right, so what I've done is I've gone through the pallets and I've picked out my base layer of stone. Now, for these, I typically like to have the thickest, largest stones that we have on the pallet, and I also tend to prefer them to be a little bit irregular and use the ones that are not completely flat. And the reason is that I can make up those imperfections in the bedding gravel layer and install them flat with the imperfect side down. The reason why we're using the biggest stones is we want to have a nice stable base layer to build our wall off of. I'm going to go ahead and lay these out so the face is basically duplicating what I expect to see as far as a shape in the curvature of the wall, and I'm looking for a depth that will be at least 1/3 of the overall height of the wall. So this particular wall will be approximately 15 to 18 inches tall. So I'm going to look for, in this particular case, to build a minimum of 12 inches, but realistically I'm going to probably build it as deep as I would tall. All right, so we've gone ahead and set the stones we were just talking about. These are the biggest stones. These are our base stones. I've gone ahead and set them so the wall is horizontal level across, flat, and it's just ever so slightly pitched back. Most importantly, I've made sure that the stones are solid, there's no wiggle or wobble to them, and I've secured them on all sides with 3/4 inch gravel. All right, so certainly any homeowner can build a wall like this, and you can do it with some pretty simple tools. But if you want to be more efficient and precise in how you fit the stone, it would be helpful to have a couple stone working tools. Now, these are not your standard steel tip tools that you're going to buy at a box store. These tools are a specialty. They have an extremely hard carbide tip, which will allow you to cut and chisel the stone without deforming the tool. And they'll provide years and years of use with good maintenance. So what I'm going against right now is I want to put this stone right here. And right now I have a high spot. Okay. There's a couple tools I could use for this. If it was just a little nub, I could use this tool here, which has spikes on it. It's called the bushing hammer. And that would actually go ahead and knock down the high spots. But in this particular case, I have a little bit more material I want to remove. So I'm going to go ahead and use this nice pointy chisel here. That takes the high spot off the rock. And then it's nice and sturdy. It took the high spot off, there's no wobble. Now, something else I want you to take a look at is the number one reason I see walls fail is in the way that the stone is laid. It's not that the people didn't take the time to fit the stones nicely. It's that they take the stones and they run them in improper directions, such as this. And what happens is you take all the load off of the wall, and the wall becomes very easy to rock and tilt forward. So when you're building a true, authentic, dry stacked wall, the proper method is largest stones at the bottom, and your long stones, you're always going to run front to back, not side to side. It's much faster to build side to side, but you will compromise the strength of the wall, and that's why when you're building an authentic dry stone wall, you always want to run front to back. So as you build an authentic wall, you want to make sure that you're always bridging your seams. Try never to do more than 2 courses if you do have to line it up. And then your next ones will go ahead and seam up like that. And then your next one will go on top of that. That creates a very strong interlock and will prevent the wall from shifting or moving over time. So when you come across a piece that's a little bit wobbly, such as this one here, you can do what's called shimming. You never want to shim from the front and just pack in the gap, because what will happen is over time that shim's going to work its way out and the wall will become compromised. So anytime you do shimming, you want to work it in from the back. such as this. I've pre-selected my shim, which is an appropriate thickness. And I want to make sure it's a nice, tight, secure fit, and it takes the wobble out of the stone. All right, there is no chance that this stone is going to fall out through the front, and the wall will not become compromised if that were to ever happen. And then additionally, you have this gap in here. We'll go ahead and fill that in with our harding. All right, so what we got here, I want to show you the backfill, and I want to show you kind of the harding and the back layers of the wall. Another very common reason why I see walls fail is, the landscaper or the installer will install one row, superficial on the outside, but of course to save material and partially not understanding the proper construction methods of dry stone walling, that one course is just not sufficiently deep enough to withstand the forces that are imposed upon it by the land behind it, right? Whatever that may be. So what I want to show you here is the depth, how we've maintained full depth, and we're not cheating it by throwing crummy rocks in here or filling it with gravel. We've maintained a proper depth, which is basically a series of stones that are not just on the face but also behind, and then they're interlocked by smalling stones like this, such as harding. You want to fill in the voids with this, not gravel, and you want to find stones that will fit in there as tightly as possible to interlock the stones in the best way that you can. And then in our case, we'll go ahead and provide a gravel backfill behind the wall to keep the soil that's back there filtered and prevent it from coming out through the wall, so you won't see it escaping out the face of the wall, you won't see any settlement, and you won't see the wall compromised by soil over time, mixing in with the wall stones and causing weird things to happen over winter. So I'll go ahead and continue building all these tiers up as we go, and then I'm going to end, as you can see over there, at the top of the stair, and then I have the second wall to build on the other side. So I've gone ahead and filled up the rest of the layers and put my capstone on. For my capstones, I want to choose stones that are nice and flat. I want to make sure they're all consistent in height, and I want to make sure that I'm maintaining my depth of 10 to 12 inches on the top. There is a slight batter back to the wall, and yeah, it needs a little bit of cleaning up, some topsoil and some grading around it, but this wall's done. So this completes today's dry stack fieldstone retaining wall. Today I produced about 30 face feet of retaining wall. That's typical for production of one professional. If you're doing it DIY, you can expect to produce approximately half of that number. When you're building these walls, just make sure you pay attention to the sturdiness of the stone, the structural backfill, and take your time to make sure that the stones are level, flat, and have no wobble to them when you're installing them. It's going to make life easier for you as you go along. If you see a retaining wall and it's leaning over, it wasn't built right. This wall was built using authentic dry stone techniques. It will last longer than the life of the house if the homeowner takes care of it. Something like this is typically maintenance free. The only time we really ever see an issue is if somebody plants a tree next to it, and then the roots obviously will push the wall out. But this wall has proper drainage, it's structurally sound, you can walk on it, you can landscape around it, and it will provide years and years and decades of enjoyment. If you have any questions for your own DIY retaining wall, particularly in the dry stack method, please feel free to leave a comment below. I will get back to you. Check out the wall, enjoy it. Take care. Thanks for watching. You can let us know if this video was valuable for you by clicking the button over here to subscribe to our channel. Of course, don't forget to check out some more of our featured videos. Lastly, if you're struggling to reclaim time in your landscape company, check out our sister channel below. We help 7-figure business owners get their life back by teaching them effective leadership skills.